What's going on, guys? Welcome back to W.D.Y.D. CSP. What do you do as a central sterile processor? Guys, today I want to talk about the wonderful world of channel brushes, or as in this case, instrument tube brushes. Guys, we often teach our technicians that when we encounter cannulas or suctions, that we should flush and brush our cannulated items. But what does that mean, guys? What does it mean to flush and brush? Well, flush is, of course, the initial rinse to remove any gross soil or debris within the cannula. But what about brushing? How do we know we're picking the correct brush for the task at hand? Well, many manufacturers that sell brushes do sell a sizing tool or gauge that you can use to measure the size of the cannula, and then it picks the appropriate size brush. Well, the general rule of thumb is that a brush's diameter should be slightly larger than the cannula of the item that you're gonna clean. So what does that mean though? Slightly larger. Well, you wanna look for what I call the umbrella effect, the folding umbrella effect. When you insert the appropriate size bristle brush into a cannula, you should see the bristle slightly collapse when it's entering the cannula, and when you're grabbing at the base, you should feel slight friction entering that cannula. You should also be able to twist your device when you're entering, okay? Because if you're testing, if this is a very long brush, trying to twist the brush is a lot more difficult than trying to twist the device. You should be able to twist the device as you're inserting this brush to get a good contact within the cannula that you're cleaning. The brush not only needs to have the correct diameter, but the correct length, so that when you're entering the cannula and cleaning, that the bristles should exit completely the other end of the cannulated device. This way you can inspect the entire length of the bristle for any debris or soil that may have been trapped in there. When removing the brush, it's not a ripcord effect. Slowly remove your device, twisting as well, because now the cleaning action happens in the opposite direction. You should repeat this several times, or as many times as the IFU or your policy states. Why do I give this teaching? Why am I talking about this? Well, because oftentimes we tell technicians to use a brush that is slightly larger than the opening. Well, what about in a case of suctions where the distal tip opening is the actual size of the cannula, but the proximal end is much larger? I often see technicians try to insert a much larger brush into the proximal end and wonder why I can't get a brush in there. Well, you're able to clean that end of it, and maybe you should use a larger diameter to clean the opening. But the actual cleaning of the cannula, to pick the appropriate size brush, you should enter the distal tip. So let's see if I can find the correct size brush here. Right? So here's the brush I'm going to be using. I'm going to enter my distal tip. I see slight collapse. I feel resistance, but not so much that I can't smoothly enter this device and be able to twist it while I'm entering. Now, when I get in there, I have to take a count into the curve. Okay, I'm going in, and there is complete exiting of the brush in the proximal end. Okay, I'm going to do the reverse action, twisting my cannula as I come out. Okay, doing that slight turning action there, and very smoothly I'm able to exit my cannula. That is the correct way to pick a cannulated brush for your cannulated devices. So what's with these instrument tube brushes? Well, they're color coded, which is nice, but it's color coded only to show the different sizes, right? Now, I like to use these brushes personally. I like to use these on the prep and pack side, okay? Strictly because they're completely different than what I would use in the decontamination side. And it would be easily seen that if one of these brushes got over to the decontamination side to be used as cleaning brushes, that they're not following the processes and procedures. These brushes are good to use as inspection tools, but if you do choose to use them in the decontamination side, okay, these are good brushes to use as single pass brushes. What do I mean here? So let me find the right size cannula here. All right, so this one here is not, I'm sorry, I apologize for that. This one right here. Okay, so this is a 7 French, and I'm gonna go ahead and insert my brush. Okay, now this brush can be used in the decontamination side if you're using a single pass through brush. Okay, meaning that you pass the brush through one time without withdrawing it, right? And you're cleaning in one direction. So here you go, exits completely, clean off the bristles and pull the brush all the way through, and then insert at the opposite end again and do the same thing. If this is how you are taught, or how your policies and procedures, or how the IFU states that you should be cleaning brushes, cannulas, this is a good brush to use. Downfall to these brushes is that if there's any rough edges in there, it may shave away some of that plastic, so be very careful when using these brushes. Now, these brushes are designed so that the bristle height is larger than the actual shaft of the instrument. So as you can see, the bristles are much larger and the shaft is smaller. So when choosing a cannula, you want slight umbrella effect on the bristles, okay, so that the shaft can enter and exit completely. Now, a word on these types of brushes. These are open-end cannula brushes. What do I mean by that? Well, the very tip of this brush is metallic, okay? These are designed to clean open-ended suctions and cannulas, not closed-end suctions. This brush is inappropriate to clean this type of suction. Unfortunately, I do not have a fan tip brush, which would be a brush that looks exactly like this, but the very tip has a rounded edge of bristles so that you can clean the very distal tip and that rounded edge of that cannula. You want to be able to get that twisting motion in there and clean the tip off, and then when you flush again, you'll be able to eject that soil from this cannula. And lastly is care. Brushes, guys, ideally should be disposable. That is, in my opinion, a best practice. If your brushes are designed to be reusable, as all the brushes in this, all these brushes are, according to the IFU, reusable, it is a good idea to clean and disinfect your brushes daily, ideally each shift, or whatever your policy and procedure states. But thermal disinfection is good enough to disinfect your brushes. Some facilities I know even sterilize their brushes, and again, that depends on your facility. I just believe that after a day of using a brush, they get pretty beat up. And you definitely want to discard your brushes if the bristles look beat up or missing. If there's too many kinks and bends in your brushes, you definitely want to get rid of your brush. So if your brush is looking like this, it's time to get rid of it, okay? Don't try to straighten it out and do any magic with it. Get rid of it, get a new brush. All right, guys, as always, stay true to yourselves, keep it 100, continue educating yourself, and until next time, peace.